house. We're going to give the people their chat as they roll in. How was your day today, though? We can do our little random thing before we start. How was your day today?
It was cool. I just chilled, coming off the Easter weekend, which was nice. It was relaxing.
Yeah.
Like folks, we need rest as much as we can. So,
listen, I didn't Easter this weekend. Although my daughter did.
Shout out to Lola.
Lola went to the church service that was, I think it was at the Fiserv Forum. It was a big service that she went to. Okay. It was a large population of young people were there.
Nice.
It's the church, I can't remember the name of the church.
Thrive?
No, it's that dude with the locks. His last name is Locke, Pastor Locke. That church. I can't remember the name of the church right now.
No.
Is that what it's called? I don't know. I'm not in charge. I didn't go. Lola did. I was glad to see her go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. And we'll probably have a slow join in. I see one person is logged in. Hey, welcome. We got the chat up. You can go ahead and share who you are and where you're listening from or watching from, and say hello to our special guest, DeMar Walker. We're going to get started in a few minutes. We like to give people a chance to hop in. And I guess for the recording purposes, because we are live on all the streams, let's do a quick infomercial. Let's drop that chat out for 1 second before y'all add your comments. I just want to take a moment to say we would love it if you support the Access Fund at this time. So if you've been watching the social media for Prime Solutions, I am raising funds to do something very specific. I am raising funds to take a small group of Black women on a retreat. No agenda. No specific outcomes to reveal to any funders, because we're doing this the mutual aid way. And we are doing it because Black women deeply need your support. Black women deeply need rest. We are an endangered species. We are a target. And the goal of the Access Fund is to provide that opportunity to not just them, but me. I'm one of the Black women. I'm not just a hair club for men advocate. I'm a volunteer. Listen, it's hitting us all. And your girl is tired. My tired is tired. And so I need y'all to just pay to make sure that we still exist. So please support the Access Fund. And during the month, we will be fundraising for this all of April. During the month, if you identify a Black woman that you think really needs to be on that retreat, I have not picked people to be on the retreat. But if you know someone that needs to be on that retreat, please nominate them. Reach out, send me a message, comment in the posts, and tag them. If there are an amazing Black woman that does great things and does not get appreciated the way she should, that is the goal. We would love for you to support by way of donation and by way of nomination. So as those donations roll in, we can provide support to the right Black women who are underappreciated. Okay? That's the infomercial. That's all the infomercial I'm going to do. Every now and then we will pop the Access Fund QR code back up. If you have any questions about it, you can go to that link. It'll take you to my website, absoluteprime.com/donate. Again, I am not a nonprofit. Don't be looking for no nonprofit write-off. I am a for-profit institution. I have left the nonprofit industrial complex as a strategy, a technique, and a choice. And so that will not be getting you any tax write-off. Don't expect it. expect it to be your write-off with the Lord.
Come
Ask
on.
God to write it off.
You
You
better
always
be
God
the
in faith. All right. Okay. All right. I can leave the QR code up for a little longer. I'm going to throw this chat back up. I just wanted to do a quick infomercial before we really get started. But if any of you want to say hello to our friend DeMar before we get into the discussion, please do. I'm gonna leave this up for a moment and get this off of DeMar's face because he do not need the QR code on his face.
What is happening?
Bye, DeMar. Look, just kidding. Just kidding.
I need to
All
get
right.
into this mug.
Listen. Well, look, I'm not gonna hold y'all. We at the 5-minute mark in, so we're gonna start the conversation. So first and foremost, let me turn off our minimal house music, the kind that doesn't get us in trouble for ownership. Yes, yes. Do you love it? Yes. Okay. So we're gonna turn it off and we're gonna get into the discussion. So first and foremost, DeMar, thank you for coming and joining this podcast and live stream. I have always been a huge, huge fan of your work. Shout out to my friend Lawrence Andrew, previous guest, showing up here in the comments. Yes. Um, but I'm really happy to have you on. We've had so many productive and also just wandering, visioning conversations that capturing this time capsule means a whole lot to me. I'm really excited to have this discussion. So, just do a quick intro to you. But I will say, I know DeMar from being a dance mom, and my child danced and was trained deeply by DeMar while he was dancing and teaching her and Koti. And DeMar is also a Public Allies alum. And so we overlap a couple of ways, right? But those are the key ways. We are part of the cultural worker community of the greater Milwaukee area, but we are also just huge assets of the Midwest. And so when we started having this conversation about what should our time together be about, um, the concept that came out of this was the fullness of Black people. And DeMar, if you know DeMar, those of you watching, DeMar is good for giving you a jewel, a pearl that you say, you know what, that's it, that's the lesson. And so I'm going to pause. And before we get this conversation started, I would love for you to do just a little bit of a walkthrough of a bio intro to you, how you got to where you are as the creative you are today. And then we'll get into some of these specific questions that we're going to talk about today.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you, LaShondra, for having me. It's an honor. This is super, super dope. I watched the previous podcast with Lawrence, Andrew, and that was amazing. And I remember hitting you up, and I was like, "This is super duper cool what you're doing. I would love to be a part." And you was just like, "Oh, you next up." And I was like, "Oh, for real?" And here we are. But yeah, thank you once again for having me. My name is DeMar Walker, pronouns he, they, Milwaukee born, Mississippi Delta raised, and lovers of all things Black and artful. I feel like that's just like a brief summary because I feel like we're going to get into so much of this, but at the
Yes.
core of it, that's just what it is for me.
That's a good, sometimes few words they're deeper. They have a lot more meaning. So I agree. I think that's a great way to get started. So I want to talk a little bit about your multidimensionality, which I think is a really important. I've watched your work evolve from this space of instruction, this space of working with youth and developing dancers, teaching, and then to creating, and then also still doing those other things, those teaching, those developing artists while still creating. So the question I want to ask you first, what does this idea of multidimensionality mean for you personally? And how does your work actively resist the notion that Black folks need to play it small? How have you continued to stay large and big in your work?
Wow, you coming in heavy already.
You starting it off.
That's a really, really great question, Lashandra. I think for me, there's nothing small about Blackness.
Listen,
I think just at its root,
right.
we think about the cosmos. We just think about the way that we show up in the world and how we navigate the world. We're always sort of making space wherever we are and just pushing it further and further and further. So for me, like you said, you know me for a really long time, and my evolution as an artist has been it's been a whirlwind, but it's been a blessing. It's been a really beautiful thing just
Yeah.
to even be present with myself in all of it. And what I started to realize was I didn't want to like pigeonhole myself to one thing. And I think a lot of that comes from the way that Black people are sort of conditioned through, like, the career,
Yeah.
or you do this really well. So, like, why don't you just sort of like stay here where we can sort of like determine like how you move and how you navigate. But with everything that Black people have been through, just our condition, we always make a way. So if we're gonna make a way, it's gonna be in multitude. So if that means I show up as a dancer one day, I show up as a dancer one day. If I show up as a poet one day, I show up as a poet one day. If I show up as a filmmaker one day, I show up as a filmmaker. If I show up as an actor, I show up as an actor. And those are all mediums that I do. But I think ultimately it's just about really giving myself the due diligence to be all of those things and to honor what I want out of my life and how I get to express all of that through these mediums. That's the thing that's important to me.
Awesome. Awesome. I think what's really interesting too is inside of your narrative of your bio and the way that you articulated your work, even on your website, there's this Midwestern context inside of it. I often say that, and you saying this really resonates with me because there's no monolith to Blackness, in my opinion, but there is a very particular Midwestern Black, and I think that has come up in our conversations. Our je ne sais quoi, our swag, the way that we show up is very different. I want to hear a little bit about the way your work shows up in this Midwestern context. What does that look like for you? And then what makes us unique as a region? What is the difference of the Midwest Black swag that you believe shows up for us?
Milwaukee is so Black.
How
Like,
black is it?
like let's just get that like out the way first and foremost. And I say that because Lashondra, you and I both know this because we do a lot of work outside of Milwaukee where
Mhm.
I feel like there is this narrative about what Milwaukee is. And when people, I know you've experienced this where you tell people where you're from, they're like, there's Black people in Milwaukee? And I'm
This
like,
one.
yo, what? Like, there's Black people everywhere, right?
Right.
But there's so much to consider with all of that. And then when you talk about like a particular Blackness, you know, like what is synonymous with Black Milwaukee? Like, who hasn't been to Juneteenth?
Listen.
And I think we might have, outside, I think Galveston, of course, I think it could be argued the oldest Juneteenth, like
Mhm.
celebration in the country. So,
That's right.
when you think about what that means, and specifically with the idea of Midwest and sort of like this larger narrative, people think about it as like flyover country, right? With the exception of
Yeah.
Chicago, like with the exception of Chicago and Detroit. Like, and we love
Yeah.
our sister Midwestern cities. They're dope. You
Yep.
know, um, but there's something really, really unique about the way that Milwaukee shows up. Just like with I mentioned Juneteenth, like us playing cans. Like I don't know of any other any other city. I don't think in the country, let alone the Midwest, that does that. Maybe they do, but I'm not familiar with that. You
That
know,
dance is something for us.
yeah, and so, um, like calling Air Force Ones dookies, like our slang.
Who did that?
That-
Like, how did we get there?
I
But
mean,
it's so us. We're not gonna argue about it. That they dookies.
they dookies.
Don't say nothing else about them.
Don't say nothing else about them. Y'all can have Air Force Ones. That's great.
These ain't water fountains. They bubblers.
I mean, and you better get it right too.
You don't drink from a fountain.
Yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
so I say all of those things because I wanted to acknowledge just like how culturally rich we are and
Yes.
sort of like shifting away from that narrative that I think oftentimes gets us sort of caught up with, we know about the disparity, right? We know
Right.
about the hypersegregation, and all of those
Yes.
things. But I think oftentimes we miss like those really, really sort of like people would consider like very like minute things that are
Hmm.
so huge, for us, that gives us such a uniqueness in the way that I think is very special about us as Black Milwaukeeans, but
For
also
sure.
how we represent the region too. And like on social media, we it, Lashandra. Like the kids are killing it on TikTok. Like I got some of my people that live in Detroit, in Chicago and other Midwestern cities, they like, I did not know that Milwaukee was so lit like this. Like the music, the dancing, like
Yeah,
people are surprised that we have our own social dances here.
we do. We got
You
our own
know,
sound too. Musically, one thing about Milwaukee's music, and as an artist myself, like the claps. That's the most Milwaukee standard pack. There's gonna be a break in your Milwaukee track where you're going to hit a claps moment because you need to let people know this is the part where we about to go up a little bit more, but we gonna clap before we do it. And it's so soulful. And it's a little bit of Chicago, a little bit of Detroit, maybe some Minneapolis season from the live band piece of it. You know what I'm saying? Give it a little bit that Prince and the time and the Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis in
hmm
there. But like ultimately, it's a sound
hmm
and the dancing is a feeling,
yeah,
right? Like I love watching what the young I'm old, right? What the young folks have done with this dance, the banging dance. My daughter was doing it when she was in high school, but now it's like a whole thing. And I remember it was really that and that driving dance. I can't
hmm
remember what it's called, but it's basically you like baseline and it driving crazy, but the dance itself is about driving. And I remember it was the certain artists that were doing songs that had something about dipping in traffic that
yeah,
would make those songs go. And we've done such a great job of weaving the performing artist of Milwaukee
hmm
into the dancer of Milwaukee. Like you need that Milwaukee song for that Milwaukee dance.
yeah.
Cause Ray Nitty and I talk about this all. Shout out to Ray Nitty. We talk about this all the time about how the young people they refined bow. Okay. Then they make a new dance to it.
Yep.
Then Milwaukee bangs on y'all and says, that's not the dance. Don't do that. This is the dance, right? There is already an existing dance to bow. Don't try to make a new one. Meanwhile, Ray, like, make as many as you want. We want this to continue to go viral. We don't care. But also, yes, there is an original dance to it. I think
Yeah.
those are important factors for the time capsule of the history of what is Black Milwaukee. We
hmm
always have to bring in. I could be older and bring in more old stuff, but I ain't gonna do that right now because I'm gonna continue to date myself of the many eras of Milwaukee. But I will say one era that, as a Greek person, as an AK,
hmm
the Marquette step shows and talent shows
Mm.
back in the day. That's the other reminder when you said we so black, that's a we so black era for the music because those talent shows and step shows used to be the highlight of the summer for everyone. And you will go to these shows and you will find out about groups that you didn't know about that were coming up, but they got onto those talent shows and will go on to continue to make music. So
Mm,
yes, we so black.
we are.
And
We are.
y'all need to know it. We the blackest black there is. And there are other blacks that are equally black, but ain't nobody blacker than us. We black. Yeah. And
I
I love that
agree.
about us.
I do. I do. I really, really do. And just thinking about this title, about the podcast, the fullness. Like so much of what you said, Lashandra, just speaks to the way that I feel like blackness is really about like immersing ourselves through our senses. If you're blessed and fortunate to have your senses, but like you saying all that just makes me think about the cookouts.
Yes.
Like you gonna get you some good food. I can still remember family reunions. I can smell the food in this moment. I can taste the food in
Yes.
this moment. I can hear the music. It's probably some SOS band that's being played. You know what I'm saying? It's me yelling at one of my first cousins because I'm trying to get them to get the steps right so we can show out, for my aunts and uncles so we can get this
Right.
choreography together. I'm dripping the sweat from my forehead, but then I'm going to get a sip of a Wildwood soda that I eventually crush the can to go in front of.
Listen, to be your can for cans. You got to drink the soda in order for the cans game to even start.
Even me saying Wildwood soda,
Wildwood is very particular.
and that's why I
And let's
mentioned
be
it.
clear, all the flavors can be purchased at once for less than $10. So you got every flavor they got in that bucket of ice. Let me keep it
Listen,
real. It's either a bucket of ice or it's that big old red and white cooler. The big
mm-hmm.
red and white cooler gonna be full of the sodas.
Yeah,
And they might get a different color for the one that has alcohol in it so the kids don't mess with it. So maybe that was green and white. You know what I'm saying?
exactly.
But we're going to have the coolers and we're going to have the drinks
Yeah.
and we're going to bust them cans down and be in the parking lot on the side or on a sidewalk somewhere in that park.
Mhm.
That's going to be happening. It's going to be somebody going to have some chalk. So we're going to have a hopscotch game over here. And somebody brought some jump ropes because we're going to double dutch.
It's all of it. It's all of what you mentioned.
No doubt.
It just makes me think about just really how profoundly sensorial blackness
Yes.
is.
Yes.
Like to know that we can be removed from any space, right? But like to be so attuned and in tune with our bodies and how we communicate that with each other is just so special to me. Like you mentioned the whole idea about like our dances and like, the Milwaukee dance and banging, I had a really transformative experience with one of my younger cousins. She taught me the Milwaukee dance on our grandmother's patio in Brown Deer in like 2023, I think.
Mm.
And that was at a time where I was like really questioning Lashandra. And this, like, I was just like, I don't know if I want to do this art stuff anymore.
Mm.
And so we got out on that patio, Lashandra, and she was like, nope, you got to do it like this. She was like,
Yes.
you ain't steering the
Listen,
car right.
they'll turn you back up. My favorite way to reconnect with young people is to learn the dances they doing. It always feels like it's leveling because I was the dancing kid. I was always going to
Mhm.
be dancing. I was going to learn the steps. I was going to learn the dances. Um, and when you see young people doing the dance and you jump in with them, it's a trust builder. It's a leveler. Now they like, oh, you cool.
Yeah,
You see what we doing that's cultural too. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know that dance. How you do that?
yeah,
And it's a great way at the cookout, at the barbecue, at the family reunion to relate,
yeah,
and then bring them into the back to the core point. The blackness
yeah.
is very important for them to not feel isolated from us as the adults that are adultier, right? Because y'all, these are the adults too. Like all my children are adults now, so adults are the
Mhm.
children, right? So when I experience the young people being adults, it's a different way of engaging them.
Yeah.
It's different than a teacher though, because I'm the older than the teacher usually now. So like it used to be the teacher vibes, like where it was like the cool teacher that everybody liked to be
Uh-huh.
around. I'm not that no more. I'm a different age. So now I'm managing into this other space of, oh, she cool. She do be learning the fun stuff. Oh, she got it. She still got some swag in her.
Yeah.
Like those are important parts of our blackness coming together.
Mhm.
It's a neutralizer. It's a
Yeah.
neutralizer. And it's a great way to learn what they're going through
Yeah. Yeah.
so that
You
you
just
cannot be judgmental. The world is judging them so harshly.
Yeah, I agree. And to be able to have those moments with them, to be able to have that expression and share that with them. And it's wild to hear you say, like the adults looking at us kind of like, what y'all doing? Because what's interesting is I never forget, she had taught me the combination and we were back in the house, LaShondra, and she was like, Granny, you want to see what me and DeMar came up with? And like I'm doing the dance with her. My grandmother is like, what your grown ass doing? Like and I was looking at Granny like, I'm a dancer. Like I wanted to learn to dance. And she's like, DeMar, like, leave that for the kids. But I'm like,
No.
this was my way of being able to connect with my younger cousin, which is wild because I used to teach her mom those dances that I just talked about at the cookouts.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like this continuum, this lineage to be able to
Right.
have this expression in our family. Like it gets no better than that. So I'm like, yeah, we need to do more of that. We need to. That's how we need to show up for each other and be able to love on one another. It's through the
Yeah.
expressions.
Absolutely. So important. Don't be too adulty that you
No.
can't that you can't connect with young adults. And like I joke about this all the time and saying that I don't really like children anymore. This is my joke. It's my going joke. And I say it because my children are adults now, and so I'm not the cool auntie anymore.
Okay.
Even though I'm not uncool,
Hmm.
cool auntie is a different person. Like I've accepted my generational space. I'm almost 50.
Okay.
So this allows me to be able to be a way more seasoned adult that young people can be like, oh, so you can be that age and you can still care about these things that I care about, right? So I look for ways to intersect, but I find that it's important that it still has to happen with some of the kids, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm a super auntie. My brother is a grandfather, so I'm a great aunt.
Oh.
And the adult children, I'm always all the adult children's favorite, right? Because I'm the cool auntie of the adult children. But them grandbaby age kids,
Uh huh.
that's something else. I ain't got no grandkids, and I'm grateful for it. My children are not having children, and I am not complaining. My friends is becoming grandmas, and I can be great like aunts to other people. But them little kids is where it's at. They are fun and hilarious. And they like if you take an interest in whatever their special interest is, you can learn so much about children. Just sit there. Oh, okay, tell me more about that. I
Hmm.
love that about us. I
And what does
love
it
that
come back
about us.
to? What does it come back to, Lashandra? What you say? It's the creativity. It's the
It
expression.
is.
You know.
It is.
So and that's through the body.
It is.
Got to do
It
more of it.
is.
Got to do more of
It
it.
is. Okay, so we're gonna keep moving. You kind of talked a little bit. We talked a little bit about the education and art piece, really, in the
Hmm.
exchange of what happens when you let them teach you just as much as you're teaching them is an important piece of this. But you touched on the range of your mediums. You are in dance, film,
Hmm.
writing. You're in text. You do photography. You
Hmm.
do archive work.
Hmm.
Um, Tell me more about why you believe it is essential for you to depict this fullness of who you are as a creative. Um, and how are you using all of these mediums to prevent? being made small in some of them. I find sometimes people expect you to specialize in one and just dabble in the others. How are you preventing the small making that happens? Like, you're really well known as a dancer, right?
Mhm.
How are you preventing people from keyholing you into being that and not taking away from all the other pieces of the who you are?
Yeah, I think at the core of it is understanding that I'm a storyteller. I think first and foremost, even before I would even label myself an artist, I'm a storyteller, and I believe Black folks are the best storytellers. I believe we are the best to do it. Um, but more so, I think it's really about being the person that little DeMar would be in love with.
Oh, that's good.
Um, yeah, I've been reflecting a lot about this. And I was just a creative kid, LaShondra. Like, I was the kid that would write my mom love letters. I was the kid who was like, we gonna learn this routine and we gonna show off at the cookout for our aunts and uncles. You know, I was the kid that would love to draw with my Uncle Joe. So as I have really went through a lot with the evolution of my art practice, it's me sort of like coming back and saying, hey, little DeMar, I understand why you have decided to be so generous with the way that you want to show up through these art forms, and just giving myself the permission. And I
Mm,
definitely want to go on record saying that, giving myself the permission to just create what I want to create, you know? So
yes.
that's the main thing for me. And really just really being inspired by my family, because those environments were um, sort of the catalyst to get me to just go for it and do what I wanted to do, you know? And so in this moment, it's really just about what is it that I want to create. Am I going to give myself the permission? If I don't know what I'm doing, okay, so what? Who cares? And just go for it, you know. And
How
then,
would they know?
true, and
It's
also
your
just
creation.
recognizing that I have a unique story to tell.
Mhm.
You know, I think one of the things that's really interesting when we think about sort of as artists, we get caught up in being very technical in a
Mhm.
lot of ways. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that like it's been drilled in us as Black people, like you have to be the best,
For sure.
you know, and so we can do it well, but oftentimes it's sort of like it makes the expression very rigid, you
Right.
know, and that's not how us as Black people, how we show, like that's not how we show up,
Right.
you know. So I want to be able to say, how can I do this, but do this? How can they sort of like intersect? If not, if they don't, how can this, what I learned from this, inform what this is? So where I can bring the technicality alongside the storytelling to create something that is not only powerful to me, that can resonate with other people as well. And first and foremost, Black people. Um,
Right.
those are the people that I care about the most.
Listen. Woo. I knew you was gonna do this tomorrow. The thing, I want to break each one of the different sections of your multi-dimensionality into a question, but it's
Okay.
hard to do because it's weaved together so well, right? So when I
Yeah.
listen to you answer like this, it's hard to pivot to just talking about the politicalness of your dance, right?
Okay.
Which is the next category that I want to jump into. But I do want to use a sentence that you said during a panel discussion that we were on together at Walker's Point Center for the Arts. Shout out to my girl Chella. Purr, 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 and to my girl Savanta for putting
Hey.
those together. But the sentence that you said was, our bodies are not our own. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
And so that pricked me that day when I was just like the lack of ownership of bodies. And so inside of your work of dance, I see dance, especially coming from you, as also being political.
Mm,
So, can you say some things about how the way that your dance practice has shown up as almost a political stance
yeah.
in the way that you've practiced?
Dance has always been, I think, the medium that I gravitated towards the most. Because firstly, I absolutely love music. Like there is not a day that goes by where I am not listening to something. I'm not listening to something. And so it's just always been very much an expression. The reason why I said that I remember that panel is because I always feel like Black people were always on someone else's time
Yes.
in the sense that we don't get to sort of just be with ourselves. And so for me, when I think about dance, especially because so much of what I do is it's rooted in the African diaspora tradition, it's about rhythm, it's about theatricality, it's about community. And you cannot do those things unless you are with other Black people. I mean, you can, but when you think about so much of our movement and the way that we mobilize and we come together, that in
Mhm.
itself is not only an act of resistance, but it can literally be a catalyst for us to get free. So you see the way that I I work, especially with my film work, and I
Mhm.
made the choice to start doing dance shorts. Because I even had someone ask me last year, they was just like, DeMar, would you ever do like just like a regular like drama? Just do a film? And I was
Mhm.
like, maybe. I come from a theater background, but in this moment, this is the opportunity for me to take what I have gained in terms of all of that skill and that knowledge and experience for the live stage
Mhm.
and put
Mhm.
it into a whole other medium. And so with my films, a lot of them touch on this aspect of what it means to sort of exist in ways that can be very complex. And if we're talking about a fullness and understanding that Black people are multifaceted and multidimensional, what does it
Mhm.
mean for me to translate movement and rhythm and time in a way that can sort of shape us or contort us in ways that we know are harmful to us?
Yes.
So for me, it's always been about bringing the social with the cultural with the political because they intersect um,
Yeah.
in a multitude of ways for Black life. So that's first and foremost, and then like it shows up in the forms too. Like you can't tell me that a West African dance like a balanta, which is of the Balanta people, when they were declaring their freedom from their colonizers is no different. And they're using in the dance, they're using a staff to saying like we're going to war, like we're going to battle to declare our freedom, to fight for our freedom is no different than our ancestors being in those praise houses on those plantations and they were doing ring shouts. And
Right.
someone had the walking stick that was keeping
Right.
time in the rhythm and the community that
That's
was
right.
creating the environment and the atmosphere for us to say we are way grander than our circumstances, than the
For
condition
sure.
that we're in. And we gotta believe in ourselves to make this happen. So if we know that art is life and we know that Black folks um, Black life in itself is in so many of these multitudes, then
Yeah.
we got to make the connection to understand that anything that we do is inherently political, especially our creative expressions.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Every single act we make
Mm-hmm.
is politicized. It's interesting
Mm-hmm.
when I hear people say, I don't do politics. It does you, friend. It truly does you.
It does. It really, really does. And dance is really interesting in that moment. And I wanted to make sure that I stressed that my dance background is rooted in African diasporic tradition, because
Yeah,
there's still narratives that's being pushed out here that, like, ballet is the foundation of all dance. And I'm just like, it's too much information out here to be spreading stuff like this.
that's right. That's
Like,
right.
come on now. Like, what are we doing?
As I watch this era that we're in of intentional erasure,
Mm-hmm.
that's why this work that I'm doing right now with the podcast became really important, with getting some of these culture keepers to remind us of stories like this,
Yeah.
right? We were fortunate enough to sit under elders, ancestors who talked us through the relationship to what a dance means,
Mm-hmm.
and to sit and witness the understanding of the meaning of a dance from a region of Africa,
Mm-hmm.
and across the diaspora, for that matter, when you continue to the islands and come to American dance as well. The moral of the story is dance is always telling the story, even if you're not interpreting it. And I think the beauty of this is, from the perspective of just this specific question around politics, you don't have to understand it. The message wasn't for you. The message was for the people who it was speaking to. And so sometimes we understand it and it translates into the new thing. So just like you're talking about the walking stick and that bang, right? That's also
Mm-hmm.
our young people and that clap. We understand it. It also mirrors church's clap, which made it into church
Yeah.
through that, right? We've always found a way through to the narrative.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beautiful piece of this root of this question of the our bodies are not our own discussion that we had at that panel discussion. It stuck with me. Um, and I think it was a pivotal moment for all of us in all of our work of what our bodies would do next,
Mm-hmm.
because we were all in a phase of transition, all the people that were in that room that day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's really important too. I think I want to add some more to what was happening for you at that time. Was your voice was defining at that time as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so since then, you have been published. You've done some writing. You've done some poetry. So again, back to this fullness, you have opened up and added more practice, more medium development. So tell us a little bit more about your foray into being an author as well.
Yeah. Um, like I said, just always being a creative kid. I've always loved to write. I've always been a creative writer, short stories, poetry, and just going for it and giving myself the permission to do as such. Um, yeah, like I had the opportunity through this organization to be published for the first time. Um, and if y'all aren't familiar, I definitely encourage you all to get familiar. It's called the Black Midwest Initiative. And I've been a part of the organization for about 4 to 5 years. This is where I had the opportunity to present some research. And uh, this book was published that I brought with me, Black in the Middle,
Woohoo!
an anthology of the Black Midwest. Um, and it just really just depicts, what it means to be Black and from this region. And I wrote a poem in dedication to my late grandfather, my maternal um, grandfather. It's called Joe's Ode. And it literally talks about me growing up in Harambe, um,
Period.
period, and just being so like mesmerized by him. And so when we were talking earlier about like the cookouts and all of those things. I think about my grandfather so vividly in that same way, like him being in his coveralls, you know, fixing cars, and the way that he crossed his legs. Um, when he sat on the right side of the couch and he had his good ice water in the mason jar. Um,
Yes.
all of those images are really, really vivid for me. And so when I talk about depicting Black Midwestern stories, it has to start with the experiences that I had. And so
Sure.
he was like my hero growing up. And so
So,
I wrote that, and I talked about, you know, his love of peanut brittle and him smoking his Marlboro cigarettes, you know, all of those things. And it's just been another way to just continue to express myself. And I want to do more. I have done more. Um, um, what was it? Oh my gosh, the years are just everywhere. What was it? 24, late 24. I published Currents, which was an anthology series. I go back and forth between if it's a zine or if it's a chat book. But neither here nor there.
right.
It was an opportunity for me to do something that I've always wanted to do. You couldn't tell me that I wasn't going to write for Vibe magazine growing up. Listen, and yeah, I always wanted to be a magazine writer in that instance, and so this was an opportunity to bring a lot of folks together. Shout out to all the contributors that were a part of it. You mentioned Shavonda, she's in it. Shout out to Matt Lewis, um, so many other folks, and I just got together and just did it on this theme of water and how
Yeah.
we engage with it in the everyday. So it was literally like Matt wrote this dope piece about. I had him write a piece about 90s R&B videos that had the rain. Like, remember everybody was like in the rain. It was like you gonna catch a cold in your underarm. Like, what is happening?
Listen,
It
we was
was.
gonna be
It was.
outside or we was gonna be up against that window.
Listen, looking out the window because you're so
Listen,
distraught. It was like, do you
going
really love
down.
them like that? Do you really love them like that? This is just too dramatic. It's just too dramatic. But
90s love was very like that. Very like that. 90s and early 2000s. What was wrong with us? We were really down bad all the time.
that 90s R&B, listen, you can't tell me like that Jodeci cry for you.
Listen to me. If more of us would show up like Jodeci showed up, maybe just maybe we would know what real love was together.
With a leather two piece and some
A
Tims,
leather two piece
with no shirt on,
in
with no
the
shirt
desert.
on.
In what world do you need leather in the desert? Jodeci's, actually Jodeci's. Between them and it was an era. It was truly an era.
Yeah.
I too enjoy a wall slide slash window pane
Mm-hmm.
slash throw your jacket back in the rain outside kind of video.
Mm-hmm.
I say bring it back.
Yeah.
I'd like more of it.
I think
Um,
they tried. I think people tried. I think Kalani, she did something recently where she was like all in like the rain and she had like a dance break. And I was like, come on, Usher, you got it bad.
I
Like,
mean,
I love it.
Kalani's been doing a good job of bringing back an energy of R&B.
Mm-hmm.
She gets a lot of hate
Yeah.
for her personal life, which I think
Yeah.
is unfair.
Mm-hmm.
If we were holding all of the R&B boys and girls accountable for their personal life in their late 90s and early 2000s, we wouldn't be so hard on her.
I agree.
Because Jodeci, I'm not even going to bash them, were always a problem. And Mary J. Blige was just as problematic right along with them. You remember they was shooting R&B songs at each other when her and Casey broke up? It
Yeah.
was bad. It was bad.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently Kalani's personal life is more important than her talent. I disagree. I am not on the same side because she's put out some quality R&B. And she's done
Yeah,
a
for
really
sure.
great job of creating, what do I want to call it? She's created the blend of background vocals is back the way it was when we had Brandy in the height of her game.
Mm.
Because when everybody went online and said they got to do their own version of Folded, that's when I knew she had one on her hands.
Mm-hmm.
Because Brandy did a Folded and shredded it. I don't care. I'm not going to argue with nobody about it. Brandy is the vocal Bible, and we're just going to leave it alone. And Brandy doing it is what made me realize, you know what? Kalani just brought back the 90s, 2000 vocal rigor. That's what it
Mm-hmm.
is. It's rigor. Faith Evans background vocals for everybody in the late 90s and early 2000s. Because I'm the singer girl on this. I love me a good layered background vocal that goes from a tenor to a contralto to an alto to a soprano, the whole joint in there. And Mary J. Blige received that blessing from Faith
Mm-hmm.
Evans. So did Usher.
Mm-hmm.
Go back and listen to that first Usher between Faith Evans and Al B. Sure. All the background vocals were stacked to the hilt. And that's what we got from Kalani with her coming back into the game with the layers, because she stacked those vocals. And on par with the 90s to 2000s behavior, 100%. And so leave her personal life alone. The girls need a little chaos to get that out of them. Mary J. Blige's dating history is horrible, but those albums immediately after the breakups, fire. We will wait for whatever the breakup does and be like, okay, Mary, what's the album gonna be, sis? We ready.
Mm-hmm.
But it was an era. It was definitely an era.
I agree with everything you
So
said.
these are
Anybody
the
who
things that
knows,
bring me joy, right?
yeah.
Joy for me live in moments like this when you get a chance to hear a really full, layered, stacked background, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you listen to it over and over again because you're trying to figure out what that one run did in the middle of the 4-part, 5-part harmony situation. You're like, wait a minute, how did she stack that in there? How did that get in there?
Mm-hmm.
That's what joy is about for me. And so this goes to our joy question because it's a celebration of community and bringing back joy. I really want to hear what your art has done that brings you the most joy. Where is the joy layered into your art? And then also, like, what does that look like for others? How are you unapologetically, without question, radically creating joy with your gifts?
Ooh, this is kind of a hard question. I think just being candid, I think it's been a bit difficult in this moment to sort of
Ooh,
like
baby.
to find joy as a Black person.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about, the manufactured, like the TM type of joy, where it's like we're going to go and we're going to get together in a conference space and we wear a certain type of outfit and we take pictures and we have us some breakfast potatoes and an omelet, like there's nothing wrong with a brunch type of vibe or any of that, but I think about like what does it mean to find joy within oneself. And I think for me, if
Mhm.
it's going back to my art practice, it's really just been about giving myself, and I mentioned it earlier, the permission to do what I want to do.
Mhm.
Um, and, that hasn't really been, that hasn't always been a thing for me.
Yeah.
Because I think, like I mentioned, we get so caught up in feeling like it has to be in a certain type of way, like a certain type of trajectory. And I
Right.
think what has been joyous is the fact that if I decide that I want to hit a mean two-step in my living room, and it doesn't even have to like be seen by an audience or screened at a festival, that in itself, in that moment, is giving me what it is that I need to show up in my fullness as a Black person.
Mhm.
And I say all of that to say, like, recognizing that it can just be about what you want
Mhm.
versus it just always, the joy is being about I'm being with myself and expressing myself how I deem fit in this moment without some type of like external thing telling me like, well, you can monetize this, right? Like, or
Right.
if you get these many followers, or you get these many hits or likes, by doing this and this and this, maybe it could lead to this and this and this. Like,
Mhm.
forget about the machine, forget about the method. Like, where are you in I would say like your madness in moments with it. Like, to be just unapologetic with whatever you're feeling. And even if
Mhm.
it means that you channel the rage that might come with all of it to bring you that sense of happiness, that sense of joy in that moment. Um, that's all that matters. And to also know, Lashandra, and I want to say this, like, to know as a Black person, like, you're deserving of that. Like,
Mhm.
I think that's important too. We miss that often because black folks are, and I can't stress it enough. Like, we're so used to being removed from things,
Right.
when it's just like you're not deserving of this, or you don't need to have this. But like,
Yeah.
no, like, to really turn it back on ourselves and saying like, no, like, I am deserving of this. If this is what I want, then if I have to, I'll do everything in my power and my being to do it, and just
Mhm.
letting that be, you know.
For sure. For sure. I've been in a rage place lately. Um, and that's just where I've been. I think it's just the reality is those of us who live a woke life,
Mm,
um, I think rage is a bit normal for us right now because literally what the fuck, right? That's where we at with much of what we're being the messages we're being sent, right?
mm-hmm,
It isn't literally individuals, you know what I'm saying? You don't have to take it personal for individuals. But I think that the biggest challenge around harvesting my joy has
mm-hmm,
been there are moments when I don't want to let joy be the answer. Sometimes I want the rage to be the answer. And this is how I appreciate the universe protecting me because usually something happens that's outside of me that makes me laugh or have an epiphany of something joyful
yeah.
that saves me from an act of rageful violence. Because that's where I'm at. My stage name is Fiery Phoenix.
Yes, it
I
is.
haven't done any performances in a while. If
Mm-hmm,
I performed in the state I am in right now, it would probably be violent rage.
yeah.
And I think it's because the real things that are happening in society, my eyes see things and then they process them for what they really are. And I don't try and convince myself otherwise.
Mm-hmm,
I also can't be convinced by external people that it's not what I know it to be because I'm of an age now. So
yeah.
now my intuition wins every time
Yeah.
because she been around longer than some of y'all been alive. So her voice be like, girl, I don't know. I know you're not trying to convince me otherwise. So the work of harvesting joy is two phases, right? It's finding things to still be joyful about and counting them. That's work that I have to do, right?
Mm-hmm,
But then it's also trusting the universe to put things in front of my path that refuel that joy. I mean, it's been a rough phase for me right now. I
mm,
was out with some of my sorority sisters after a chapter meeting because I'm dutiful at this time. If I do nothing else, I'm doing right by the culture and making sure our ducks are in a row in my chapter as a supporter, right? But we had such a joyful night. What's today? Today Monday. So yesterday, no, Saturday, out just for a little moment. We had a little celebration. Chapter won an award. Our president won an award. Shout out to Isioma for winning an award, right? And we just kind of vibed out and talked. And this doesn't happen after every chapter meeting. Like sometimes it'd be like, I'm going home. I gotta clean my house. It's a mess, right? Like just go to be dutiful and go home. But it was a joyful time. I laughed the whole time. I enjoyed being with my sisters the whole time. It was some brothers in the room, very platonic friendships, brothers who've known us forever. It was a very cheers type of location. So everything was very jovial and the music was my age group, the right like 80s, 90s vibes music. Like everything about it was restorative and it wasn't expected. Like I didn't
Mm,
go into it knowing I was going to do those many things that day. When I left the house, I thought I was going to go to a meeting and go home. And then I ended up doing some stuff together, right? I am grateful for how the universe puts people in front of me to be that
yeah.
joy because a lot of times I don't see that joy because I'm so busy being mad and I'm working through mad and I'm being honest about mad because I'm sick of people saying everything is okay when it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. What's happening is not okay. Black women don't deserve the experience that we're having right now. Black men don't deserve the experience that they're having right now. Black children don't deserve the experience they're having right now. Children from the global majority don't deserve the global majority doesn't deserve the behavior of what is actually the minority that calls itself the majority at all. The oppressor is running around here naked, and we not even telling you because you are embarrassing yourself. And we will also love it if you will cover up because it's not impressive. And so we're dealing with this while, I got this great sense of humor, but I'm being very serious. I'm disgusted by these people. And I'm grateful that I don't live in the DC area because I would be giving them the business in person.
Mm.
God knew what he was doing, putting me in the Midwest. Keep me out of it because I would be out here in trouble all the time. And just from a regular statement, not even really, I wouldn't be at no protest. I'd just be at the coffee shop eating y'all up. So this is the conversation I needed too. In asking that
Mm.
question, it's like, child, where I'm finna find some joy. Because it's hard to find it. But we have to be together and we have to be intentional about being together and then we find it. And I believe right now what I'm doing is not monetized yet. You know what I'm saying? I am not doing this for the money or even for the large population to come. I believe some things that we are doing right now will pay off in the long run. And
Mhm.
this is archiving to me. This is while this was going on, we told the story of what was great that was either being overlooked or that needed to be focused on more intentionally.
Mhm.
That's the way that I'm seeing this. So that's my segue into why your entry into the archives includes some of your film work. And
Uh-huh.
so for those of you who are joining us, I am about to share one of DeMar's most recent works. And so DeMar has done several recent films and productions and residencies over the last few years that we're going to talk a little bit more about. And yes, this was supposed to be an hour, but this is me and Damar, and this is how it goes. So Damar, you tell me if you got to go or something, but we going to keep going. We're a little bit over our hour. What y'all doing? Y'all just at home anyway.
We we
Anyhow,
can do like 15, 20, Lashonda.
okay. So I'm going to show the refrain, which is one of the most recent films. And so give me one moment to cue it up.
And I'll talk a little bit about it, Lashonda, while you're queuing. The Refrain is the second film in my Dan Short series. And this film in particular, it was just me, the first film in the installment. featured me and my dear friend Destiny Fletcher, who's an amazing poet, spoken word artist here in the city of Milwaukee. And I wanted this film to really showcase what it means to uh, be in practice. I think oftentimes when it comes to performance art and when people see it, it's very polished. Um,
Mm,
and not realizing that it takes so much to get to that moment where people get to see the finished result. And so you
mhm,
see me play this character who is a traveling performer and just sort of going through what could seemingly be a rehearsal, but
mhm,
I'm performing to an empty audience, an empty theater, and it just gives this idea of what does it mean when you have become so sort of like synonymous with something, and how you make it home for yourself, how you make home you how you make that as a form of home, but realizing
yeah,
that even that home may not even be enough,
right,
um, even in your pursuit of whatever it is that you're aiming for. So you get to sort of see me play this character who is a dancer, sort of go through the process of being messy and uncertain, um, while sort of like I guess putting on a show. But
mm,
I leave it up to interpretation for the viewer. So
awesome.
this is the
So
refrain.
those of you watching, make sure you drop some comments with your reactions to this. I'm about to cue it up right now. Pause. Yes. Give me 1 second to drop this out. All right, DeMar, tell me about the experience of creating that and how it makes you feel when you witness it again.
The process to create the refrain was uh, it was intense. We shot
Mhm.
everything in one day. Uh,
Mm.
Shout out to my cinematographer Derek Schmidt. He really just was like, I think what you're doing is really, really interesting. Because I was trying to find a location to do that film in the city, LaShondra.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I was like, I really want to do it. And he was like, you keep talking about this idea of like being somewhere where it's just you, but you want to be on stage. And he was like, this is a really interesting concept. And I kid you not, he was like, I literally just came back from Peoria, Illinois,
Mm.
um, on a shoot. And he was like, the Peoria Women's Club is renovating their theater that ended up, for whatever reason, I think it ended up catching fire or whatever,
Oh.
during like the mid, I think like 1900s, and they just
Mm.
sort of like had it for a long time. And he was like, they're trying to figure out what to do with it. And he was like, I think I got some pictures. He showed me the pictures, and I was like, this can't be real. And he was like, no, like I literally was just down there like a few weekends ago, and he was like, do you want to take a drive? And so I was like, yeah, like let's do it. And so we got there. The thing that's so interesting about that film in particular is the things that you saw. A lot of what I did was very much improv. It was improvisational. Like
Sure.
the moment where I'm sitting on the edge of the stage and I'm sweating, LaShondra, I had no intention of putting that in the film. It was because we shot it in the middle of summer, and like I came in and I was like, I'm gonna do my whole like Charlie Chaplin silent film type, vibe, and like I'm gonna be real cool with these movements and yada yada yada. And so there, and shout out to my first AC, Joe. They were like, DeMar, you sweating like mad hard.
Ain't no AC in the bando?
Listen, and so because the theater was in the middle of summer, and of course because it was abandoned, like there was no
Yeah.
AC. So like I'm like, well, I don't want to mess up my costumes, or I'm like, I don't want to wipe like my my suit jacket, and all of that on my forehead, and Derek was like, and I literally just sat on the edge of the stage because I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna continue with this shoot. I was hydrated, I had my snacks and everything, but like we need to get everything in that day. And so, Derek he's always been really good about like just keeping it rolling. And so
Sure.
he just was like, this is a really beautiful shot of you that I just captured of you on the edge of the stage. And he was like, can we just like keep it rolling? I want to get you. He was like, and you can just sort of do whatever you feel. And so like I took the hat off because of course I was sweating under the hat, and I like,
Yeah.
I turned it and things like that. So a lot of it was really improvisational. Um, and it was just really about me capturing these moments where I wasn't necessarily concerned about it being like this very choreographed technical piece as much as it was about really creating a story and allowing dance to sort of be, I guess, like a theme within it or a motif within it.
For sure.
And I'm really proud of it. I like how imperfect it is because I think it speaks to so much of my evolution because you know me for such a long time, and I think I've always dealt with perfectionism in a lot of ways, and so this was an opportunity for me to really just be like, what is it that you want to say? How can you use dance and film to
For sure.
to sort of show that? And yeah, I think it turned out. I think it turned out really, really well. People always ask me about the song. The song is the Black and Gold. by Salt, one of my favorite groups. If you aren't familiar with Salt, Salt spelled SAULT. They
Yes.
are amazing.
Phenomenal.
They've been putting out the best
Phenomenal group.
music for like the past, I would say, what, 5 or 6 years with Chandra?
Yeah.
Insane, insane. Cleo Soul is a part of
Yep.
Salt.
I love them.
Well, we know who Cleo is. Cleo Soul is amazing. But yeah, and I had a good time. I had a really, really good time doing it.
I loved it. It evoked emotion to did you dance to the actual song?
Um, no,
I
I
didn't think so.
didn't.
I felt like the emotion was placed afterwards. I was always curious about that. So that's why I asked the question because the dance was like performance happening, but then also pauses. And so the pauses and then the shifts between it for that song specifically,
Hmm.
the way it flowed, and in that moment where you sat down and you were using your jacket to fan yourself, it created a lot of depth in the emotional part of it. I
Hmm.
always see more in dance, of course, because the interpretation often has to do with the time that it's delivered in, right? So when I saw you do this, it was while you were in residency at Arts at Large.
Hmm.
So I saw this piece while you were in a shift and moving into a new disciplinary space.
Hmm.
Not that these other things weren't happening, but there are phases and waves of those transitions. You were in a specific wave, and it matched the wave, right?
Hmm.
Because your exhibition of Junior was up, the waves included ancestry moving in, they included inheritance of
Hmm.
things, garments, pieces, luggage, walking sticks. Like I'm remembering all the things that were on display in that residency. Um, so it felt like a time shift was happening for you when I saw it.
Yeah.
That's how the music played it in, right?
Hmm.
That song, that choice felt like something changing.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Okay.
agree. Junior was a really, really beautiful time for me because it allowed me the opportunity to really think about how sometimes anti-disciplinary but multidisciplinary but interdisciplinary my art practice is. And
Sure.
Arts at Large was cool with meeting me where I was, where I just wanted to sort of depict something that was about black maleness, black male kinship, and not necessarily from a place of black men coming together to sort of like to preach and to teach each other, but to
Right.
just really be able to provide spaces of images of us. And a lot of it
Yes.
was based on my family. The title was influenced by my dad,
Mhm.
who suddenly passed almost 3 years ago.
Mhm.
And he called me junior, but I wasn't his junior. But just reflecting on so much of my upbringing, going back to little DeMar, I grew up around a lot of juniors. A lot of my first cousins
Mhm.
were juniors, so it just became sort of like this word and this theme that
Yeah.
just sort of like moved through the space with me, with the images of my first cousins and my uncles and with my grandfather. And, I saw so many similarities between a lot
Yeah.
of travel photography that I was capturing when I was in Africa. And I was like, these little boys look like me and my cousin, and it was just this thing that just sort of like, um, just crystallized over time. And what's so wild about so much of that time, Lashandra, for junior, was just thinking about the preparation for it. I was taking those photos, that I put in the show when I went to Africa. That stuff happened
Oh,
in
yeah.
2018, 2019, but I wasn't
Mhm.
thinking about like I'm going to eventually put these pieces in an exhibition. It was
Mhm.
just about me capturing what was in front of me. And it just so happened that I was capturing a lot of images of black men and boys,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it just all just sort of like, I think, snowballed in this way where I had the archive, right, to
Right.
do the work to say now I have a vehicle to present it. So
Exactly.
Junior was it was a game changer for me.
It was definitely dope. I really enjoyed experiencing it. Um,
Thank you.
And I just can't wait to see what is next. So I know we're running low on time for you, but I think I want to know from you now what's next for you.
No, gosh, Lashandra, like we might need to have a
Which is
conversation.
literally what I said to you at Junior. I was like, so now what?
I think there's a something to be said about blackness and like being mad in this moment. Um,
Yeah.
that I think a lot of us aren't really tapped into. And I think for
Yes.
me, it's about stillness. Me as a dancer, but also as an artist and as a creative, also understanding that stillness is a move. So even when it's not looking like I'm not necessarily quote unquote doing anything or showing anything, I'm just allowing myself to be, and whatever will come, what is what will come. You
Right.
know, I'm I'm leaning off of the pressure to like produce so much, um,
Yes.
because I don't think that does well for me and how I'm wired, but also in the way that I want to share with other
Mhm.
Black people and how I want to inspire through my work. So the ideas are always there.
Yeah.
I don't know what's next, but I do know that it will be a continuation of all the things that I've done. Um, I don't know if it's a next film. I don't know if it's a writing piece. But when it drops, it drops. And I think for me, I'm very much interested in how I can continue to sort of think about what Black life is, because we think
Yeah.
about stuff in binaries, and I've been reflecting a lot about this, especially in preparation for this interview. And I always feel like on one end we're always sort of like stitching ourselves, you know, um, um, or stitching the margins that are meant to like swallow
Mm,
us up, as we're getting pushed in those areas, and we do what we need
right.
to be like, not today, I'm not doing this. But then on the other end of that, I feel like we're always pushing the boundaries. Like even when folks say like, okay, that's enough ingenuity, Black people. That's enough of this. That's enough of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Like we continue to be like, no, there's a little bit more I can do. There's a little bit more I can
Right.
do.
Right.
And not in despite of, but like I said earlier, but in a way that we're deserving. And so I think with all of that, I just want to tell authentic stories that we can sort of
Yes.
exist and be able to show what we do within all of that. That's what I'm
Right.
really interested in. And those are the stories of my grandfather and my late father, um, my cousin Zari, you know, a teenager, so many, my grandmother, my mother, all of that. And yeah, that's what I'll continue to do. I think the thing that I definitely understand is that art definitely chose me, because there have definitely been many a day where I'm just like, man, I'm done.
Listen.
I'm done.
So done.
I'm done. I'm really, really done. But there's always more work to do. And if there's
That's
anything
right.
I want to leave with people, is that Black people, is that to be full means to
Hmm.
be curious,
Hmm.
about yourself and about the way you're showing up in the world and the people that you want to share your life with, um, and to know that you're deserving of that and so much more. Um,
Yes.
and to be embodied, we got to get back in our bodies. So if that means you got
Yes.
to set up a line dance class, if that means you got to do some yoga, you know what I'm saying?
Something.
I don't know if that means you got to, jump out of a plane, you got to skydive, do what
Look,
you do.
go to the gym.
You go to the
Get
gym,
on the treadmill.
on the treadmill.
Something.
Yeah, go listen to some house music, get it in. Do what you need to do. We got to be in our bodies. We got to be in
That's
our bodies.
absolutely a fact. And that house music, back to our Midwestern theme, that's gonna get you there every time. Every
Yeah.
time. I love that house music. That's one of my liberation go-tos. A good house DJ?
Yes, I love a good house set.
Ain't nothing like
It's
it.
so freeing.
And I can just twirl, and nobody's gonna ask me why I'm twirling. It's gonna make sense because it's house.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, my friend, we have come to the end of the time you have available. And I appreciate you for taking an extra, what, 25 minutes to be together.
Because we
Again,
be
for
talking.
yes, it got into the vibes. Like we be on the phone for hours. So this happens in real time all the time.
Hmm.
We don't, y'all don't get all of that though. That's our conversations. That's our bonding time. But in this, everyone will get a chance to get to know you better. For those of you watching this live, the live stays up for a period of time, but this will eventually shift to the podcast platforms, for which all the platforms, I'm on all of them. It's all streamed to them all. My preferred is the Apple podcast. Of course, I iPhone. That's the reason. But they're on all of them. This will also still stay up on YouTube. It's a permanent fixture of YouTube in my archives. Um, Stay tuned. I do these as I feel and as I feel connected to a person. I think I want to chronicle their story because I think it's important. And I think DeMar has been a very important story that we needed to archive into this community collection. Um, but I'm I always say I can't wait to see what's next for you because that's the auntie in me, but I don't demand anything of you in saying that. I think more than anything, I believe that right now we are in such a strange phase that it's okay if productivity is not your go-to. And I say that to both you and anyone listening who's a creative who can't find the thing that's
Hmm.
next. You're not alone in that. I think we are pausing in the thing because there's so many wrong things out there that we don't want to put out something that will not be the right thing for the time we're in. Um, but I am grateful for the time that you've given us. And as we close, I will do one last commercial and reminder because you know this is an infomercial. I pay these people to use all these platforms. And
Let
so,
me jump in here real quick, Lashandra,
yes.
before you do your infomercial before we close. I just want to say thank you once again for this platform, for seeing
Oh,
me and so
yes.
many others. I think what you're doing is so necessary right now. So
Thank you.
kudos to you. For more information about me, you can go to my website, demarwalker.com, or you can follow me on the socials, Instagram, Substack, and Threads at Dancing on His Own, all one word, Dancing on His Own, all one word. That's where I typically be. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And
Thank
for those of you that are watching this, the QR code in the upper left corner will take you to demarwalker.com. And it will also give you access to some of these other films and projects that DeMar has done on his website. And some of those social handles will be accessible there too. I encourage you all to follow DeMar and stay up to date with his work. If something does drop, you want to know. You want to know when it's a new thing happening. But thank you again. I really am so grateful to be able to feature you on this platform. And then my one last commercial, well, two, we'll do two. And that is, of course, support the Access Fund. We really are hoping to, the goal is to do $100,000 in April. Why $100,000? Well, a percentage of it is to keep this type of a platform operating, of course, supporting, raising up the creatives of this community. But the other piece is I would like to put together a small retreat for Black women experiencing some of the harm of this current political and professional environment, free of cost to those Black women in leadership. I am prioritizing Black women. I will also include queer identifying folks in those priorities. So feel free to identify queer folks that make sense to be a part of this this retreat with no plan. I don't want it to be a bunch of like programmed time. No, we are not going to be doing a bunch of journals and we're not going to be talking about our feelings to each other. We are going to go to a spa. We're going to have a certain number of services available to each person by a certain amount of dollars that will be prepaid. That's the goal. We are not programming people to do anything. We're picking a dope spa. We're going there. We're vegging out at that spa in order to recharge ourselves. We need to um, reset our nervous systems and recalibrate ourselves in preparation for what the next thing is for all of us. And I think we all sound a lot like you, DeMar, collectively in this space because uh, we do need a moment to just be. And I think Black women, especially, should be just paid to exist because we are an endangered species at this time. So I think this is really just my way of creating an opportunity for people to give back um, and to build some of that infrastructure to make sure that Black women can continue to be a part of what makes this world great to live in. And that is the end of my infomercial. That being said, I encourage you all to be checked into all of Prime Solutions social media platforms. If you're watching this, you're on one of them. There are several. Um, but please do check in and continue to check in often. So when another one of these is scheduled, you will be the first to know. Thank you so much and have a great evening. Bye bye.